Hello everyone, I'm Jane, and I'm here to speak about something new today, a topic I wanted to take and afford in a really long time, and finally I can do it in a full video. I want to invest a lot more in videos, opinions, and speaking about the game and other stuff as well. So I think you'll see more of this in the future. It's one of my goals for 2022. The first video I wanted to make is about the community of the game and why I think that the current status that it's considered problematic by most people in the community can be afforded to the community as well. Let me explain the point. Who's actually the one who play the game? It's you, it's me, it's all the other players, it's the content creators. So I think that the current status, the meta, and all this kind of stuff are in a certain sense chosen by the community itself. And it's something that we could notice in all these years, especially if you are someone who's playing for, I don't know, for DbD for 3-4 years, even 5 years from the beginning, I don't know. But actually, a lot of people could notice this, and you can see this when content creators, players, usually in social medias or in their Twitch streams are like, oh, you know, the game was a lot better a long time ago. And this is something I wanted to speak about because I honestly don't agree with the general sentence, the general meaning of the sentence, because I think that the developers during these years acted in a lot of ways to balance the game and to balance it around the community feedback, around the community takes, and this is the DbD we have today. This is the DbD that is currently evolving to new directions, also because, I repeat, because of the feedback of the community, because we are the ones who play, and they take this kind of feedback in a way that allows them to put some changes that they think are right, but maybe are not the best at the look of a lot of players at the same time. And it's a kind of paradox, if you think about it. I know that a lot of you wouldn't probably agree because you think that the developers just modify the game by their own tastes, but I don't know, I'm not really sure about that, because I think that a lot of things, all the most problematic things, are all based on feedback of the community. And you can tell it by the anti-loop killers, and from also other kind of perks. And I seriously think that we are the main responsible of the status of the game right now. But let's go for different levels of analysis. Let's speak about the MMR, for example. The MMR is considered by everyone one of the reasons why the game got worse during these years. And I can see why some people say it, but I don't think that the fault is of the MMR by itself. Let me explain why. The main thing that was happening before the MMR was that a lot of killers were actually going for the so-called strict challenges. I don't want to say that the MMR is their fault. Of course, everyone chooses to go for the kind of personal challenges they want to go, but if you see people going for, I don't know, 50, 100, 4Ks in a row, and for 4Ks, usually it was about getting a 3K before the last gen was completed and someone could escape from the Etsy gate. And if you think about it, it's actually a lot, 54Ks in a row. And why did this happen? Mainly because you were facing players or who weren't at your same level or who didn't want to play the same kind of game you were playing. Because if you're playing a game for a streak, you usually are a bit more focused at the winning. While the DbD community is full of different kind of players, and these kind of players can be, yeah, the one who want to win as well. So as a killer, you can face a really focused survivor friend who really want to escape. And you can also meet the survivor friend who just want to mess around and have fun, playing with flashlights and this kind of stuff. Or, like me, the solo queue players, and you know that the solo queue experience is a lot different from the survivor friend experience, because you don't have communication. A lot of time we blame, I did it too, and I know it's not a perfect attitude, but I think that it happened to everyone at least once. We blame the teammate for not doing the right thing during the game, but if you think about it, they cannot know what's going on. So if they don't go for the save because they are committing a generator, for example, it's because they maybe think that someone else is going for that. You know how the solo queue experience is a lot more complex, a lot harder, and in certain situations a lot more stressful. So, before the Mmr happened, you could have this really long streak of winning as a killer and playing in a certain, I don't want to say more chill way, because I think that some players didn't actually change their playstyle, but they saw that playstyle being more rewarded than it's actually now. Why does this happen? Because with the Mmr, the more you win, the more you're going to face people who win. And usually the people who win are hackers aside, that it's another problem that should be addressed, of course. And one of the most important ones. The people who win are the people who want to win. So, thanks to Mmr, actually, people who were going, for example, for streak of escapes or killing, are going to face people who go for the same goal as well. And this is what happens because of Mmr. Did the Mmr actually change the game? No, the Mmr just paired the people who win a lot with the people who win a lot, in theory. Then, yeah, we had some cases where you had people who weren't exactly at your level. Everyone knows that in certain time of the day you meet some more focused players, let's say it in this way, than in other times of the day. And for example, around 7 p.m. or around evening, you usually have people who are a bit more chilled if you play as killer, while around night hours you find people who are a lot more focused at winning. And it's another kind of experience in the daylight. The time when you choose to play actually has an impact on your matchmaking, has an impact on your experience in the game. Everyone knows about it now. But actually, coming back to the main topic, the Mmr, I don't think that it actually made the game worse. I think that the basis of the idea is great, because actually, if you are someone who wants to really win, who wants a comp experience game, but we are gonna speak about comp in details later, but you know, a really hardcore challenge, let's say it in this way, and you want to go all in with all your most optimal strategies that can be tunneling, camping, focusing different gens, bringing the strongest stuff. It's kind of fair that the game pairs you, makes you play with other players who do the same thing. And yeah, if you are against a 4-man survivor friend who knows how to play the game and who brings the strong stuff, I can see how the experience as a killer can be messed up. It's also true that if you are a chiller killer and you win because you have good gains, by just playing the game, even with 12 hooks, playing with not meta perks, playing with no slowdowns, playing, I don't know, your favorite Legion member, you're gonna reach that kind of level, and you're gonna have that kind of experience. And here, what it happens is what I call the Mmr Meta Loop. What do I mean with this? Excluding the people who want the hardcore challenge and play in a hardcore way, the the Mmr Meta Loop, how I call it, is when, for example, you are a chill killer who plays with max yellow-brown add-ons, not the best stuff, kinda chill build, who want to go for mixed dukes, and you launch the game with that attitude, like, I want to chill, I don't want to hardcore focus on my games, I want to just, go for my game, and having as many hooks as possible. It happens that you win a lot, it happens that you start finding people who play with more optimal stuff, in a more optimal way, and then at a certain point you start entering in that gray area where you start finding old people who play like that. At this point, you're like, oh, why should I play kinda chill with people who are playing optimal? So, I start bringing some slowdowns. So, if I see the same people who was just a nuked, why should I ignore them? I go for the tunneling. It's my most optimal play. Why should I play nice with people who are playing their game at their best? Why shouldn't I camp someone who's close to go to the second phase of the sacrifice, or who's going to get sacrificed from the second phase to their death phase? Let's call it in this way. You start adopting these optimal strategies, and what does it happen in this way? You become one of those killers who start playing optimal as well, who start having a more optimal playstyle. And you wouldn't blame them for doing it, because they tried to play the game in a more chill way. They tried to play the game with, enduring brutal strength. And they started realizing that it couldn't be possible to play with no slowdowns against, or with no endgame perks, because the endgame perks are as meta as the slowdown, by playing chill against these kind of players. At this point, what happens? That you can face a survivor, who probably is a solo queue survivor, and this survivor doesn't like to run the meta as well. Maybe they like to run strong perks, because survivors have some amazing perks. For example, Iron Will is an amazing perk. Spine Chill, in my opinion, is an amazing perk. Windows of Opportunity is a really good perk. But they don't run the full double chances build, if you know what I mean. They don't run an Exhaustion perk, they just want to, for example, play with the add-on. Yes, it's an Exhaustion perk, but you know what I mean, it's not the Dart or Spring Burst. And these people play chill, like, okay, I'm just playing Survivor, just wanted to have my chases, I want to get my points, I want to have my experience as a Survivor, I want to open my chest, I want to work on some totems. A chill Survivor. Let's try to think about it. A chill solo queue survivor. What does it happen? You have a series of games where you actually find a lot of people like our friendly Legion of before. So people who are bored or are tired of playing chill and getting destroyed, like with only 2 hooks in the wall game because they tried to play in with a chill build, or maybe they found some really focused players because they really wanted to go for that kind of experience, for the hardcore experience. It's not a sin to go for that. I think that the only problem is when these hardcore players meet the I don't want to be an hardcore player. So at a certain point you're like, okay, if I have to die with my first hook because I get hardcore camped or I get hardcore tunnel, why shouldn't I bring, for example, DS? I know that I'm going to get tunneled, so why shouldn't I bring the perk that actually is there to protect me from that kind of situation? Why shouldn't I bring the Dart? Because if I have to be hardcore focused, if the killer wants to dedicate their whole game to me, why shouldn't I bring an exhausting perk that allows me to have a longer chase and to go on that only hook that I'll probably get as late as possible? And in this way, even these Survivor start adopting a more optimal mindset and start running the MMR meta. And maybe if they are really tired of their solo queue games, they even ask for some friends. So, you know, I got hooked and then I die with my first hook because my randoms are not able to coordinate for the save because I don't know what's going on, but you know, friends, I would like to have a more chill experience because my games with randoms were kind of rough. So can you play with me? And this person becomes from a solo queue survivor, a survivor with friend experience survivor. And there are a lot of them who actually stopped playing solo queue at all to play with their friends because they want to have that kind of chill experience. So, in this way, you can realize how this creates a loop where people go for more and more optimal strategies and more optimal plays. And in this way, the MMR is kind of putting everyone on the same level. Because everyone is trying to adapt to that kind of level. And not everyone, the 90%, I don't know the percentage, like... let's speak in general. But a lot of people are trying to adapt to that, and you know what, at that point they are like, oh, okay, I'm gonna adapt as well. And I can feel like why people do that, because you know, you want to have a good experience while you are playing a video game, and if you're going to face optimal players all the time, you try to become optimal as well. You know that you cannot go for appraisal, for example, even if I'm doing it at the moment, or for any means necessary, because, you know, if you're going to die with that only hook, is it really worth it to try to go for chest, for example, wasting that time when the killer has ruin, slowdowns, and all that kind of stuff? And when they do it with even the best killers, like Blight, Nurse, and, you know, you start becoming optimal as a survivor. And same thing for the killers. Why should I play super really chill after that I get for 5 games in a row people who are optimal gens, people who punish me for not going for the same person who ran injured in front of me and is sure I'm not going to tunnel because they know that I'm a chill killer. You know, all of this kind of stuff. So, at this point, by analyzing what's going on in the game, I feel like there are a lot of useless internal fights in the community. People pointing the finger at each other. I mean, during my games, during my streams, there are moments where the game will get really rough and I'm like, oh my god, why are you so focused on winning? Like, why are you so over the level of someone who's playing to win? And I speak about people who slug for the 4K when they don't know where is the last person. People who really go for really strong stuff altogether. People who run the same map offerings over and over and over because they know it's a map offering that can create problems to the other side. You know, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of normal being critical against this stuff, even complaining. The important thing is that you realize that once you close the game, it's over. But I think it's normal, because if you want to have some kind of more interactive experience, you can realize how going always for the most optimal stuff can be not really engaging for like 4 hours in a row. I can feel that, like every opinion is valid and you're right at sharing it if you don't hurt anyone else. But there are a lot of internal fights that are completely useless. Pointing the finger at a survivor who runs the dart when the meta of the moment is tunneling the same survivor. So this survivor wants to go down as late as possible. I don't think, and I say it as someone who doesn't like the dart, like I'm not a fan of this perk, but I can see why this person chooses to go for that perk. Like, if I have to die with my only first hook, I want to go down as late as possible. So, take this the dart. Like, I know I'm gonna die with my first hook. Like, I know that you're going to go back to me if I get a hook. So why shouldn't I run this perk? Especially in a meta or in a game where a lot of killers have developed some kind of anti-loop powers. I think, or anti-W powers, if you think about the Blight as well. So if you're going to face Nurse Blight, like, Dead Hard is something that can allow you to get some more seconds, and it's not even sure, because a lot of Blights and Nurse can play around Dead Hard. Or, I don't know, even the artist that I like to play is a killer who counters loops really well, so having that exhaustion perk that allows you to last a bit longer can be really helpful. So even if I'm not a fan of the perk, I can see why people run it. At the same time, I can see why killers run slowdown perks and even stack slowdown perks. Because when the game is played at optimal levels, the survivors are really optimal gens as well. So you want to have a more chilled experience as well, especially if you are one of those who's trying desperately to not camp or not hooking. And at the same time, like, camping and tunneling when you see like 1 or 2 gens immediately popping, how can you blame someone doing that? I feel it. Like, I play a lot of Survivor, you know it, you watch me on stream. But when 2 gens pop at the start of the game, that person is kind of forced at removing 2 hands from the generators as soon as possible. So you have a lot of a situation where these sort of fights have no sense to exist anymore, because this is how the game is now. And or we try to all change attitude to be all relaxed, or you have to try to understand what's the game we are playing, what's the match we are playing. I can get it, can get rough, and my personal suggestion is, when you realize that, take a little break, stop playing the game for during that day, especially if you're not streamers. Like, you have a lot bigger choice, a lot bigger possibilities, more possibilities, sorry, to switch to something else. Like, I can feel you, it happens to everyone, even to the best streamers in the world, to the best Dead by Daylight relaxed players. Everyone can get burnt when you have so many, let's say, challenging games in a row. So, speaking about rulebooks for both sides, because usually you hear about the survival rulebook, but how many times you have a killer who complains because you were fast gens? How many times you have a killer who complains because you run a strong tile? Like, oh, you know, you went for the main building, yeah, you know what, I don't want to go down, so I'm going to go for the strongest tile as possible, if I can. Like, it's my goal as a survivor, not going down. They can complain about some perks the survivor run, so if you run Dead Hard, if you run Prove Thyself, like, perks that probably are problematic for real, but I repeat, in a meta where people run the strongest killer, the strongest perks, the strongest add-ons, go for optimal strategies like tunneling and camping, everything becomes valid, in my opinion. And I know that it's hard to realize it when you have the bad game, but if you try to think about it, if everyone brings the strong stuff, the other side is allowed at doing it too. So, that's the thing, in my opinion. Or at least what I realized during this last period where I started playing more Survivor and Killer as well. A lot of times when we go for these kind of topics, we speak about the comp community, and I want to go for this parenthesis because the comp community actually doesn't mean the community of players who like to sweat in public games. Usually the comp community is a side of the community who chose to actually go over this kind of unbalancements in the game. They chose to set some rules for their competition, for their tournaments, where they test themselves in an environment that is considered as more balanced as possible. And the idea is kind of amazing. Like, if you have fun at doing something, if you have fun at doing something in the game in a certain way, it's great. Like, no one should have an opinion on your own fun. Even if I think that a side of the comp community who actually does the opposite in the public games actually put a sort of bad name on the whole competitive community. But I saw some like players, for example, of Oracle, who in public games are completely different. Like, they try to go for some silly stuff that probably wouldn't work in a competitive game. They try to have fun with alternative perks, with alternative playstyles, so like they don't mind if they die as a survivor, they don't mind if they don't 4K every game, because they, for example, are playing Billy and trying to flick every tile. Like, you know, you should try to understand what's the difference between comp scene and people who are playing super optimal in public games. I think it's really different. And it's a difference that should be underlined, in my opinion. I just wanted to say this little thing to actually make to the competitive community a bit more justice, to try to explain better what's a real competitive scene and the difference with the optimal hardcore players in the public lobbies. Another topic I wanted to take is the game in a worse status? And my answer is no. In my opinion, it's not in a worse status at all, especially if you think of it as a killer player. I started playing, I think it was 2018, and I started playing as a killer on PS. So, not the most optimal killer scenario, I would say. And I remember stuff like the whole DS, that like everyone could use DS even before getting hooked. DS didn't get deactivated if they worked on gens. To avoid getting DS, you had to drop people every 2 or 3 steps. So in this way, you actually dribbled the DS. This was the technical word. You had a lot more killers who had to respect the tiles of the game. You had killers were weaker than now, like for example the Wraith, or I don't know, I'm not sure about Legion, because I think that the original Legion was a beast, but people kind of slept on it for various reasons, especially if you played the Legion with the add-ons. But in general, the Old Plague in 2019, when the Might of the Faithful was released, was kind of weaker than the Plague we have now. We had a lot of stronger maps for Survivor. Just think about Ironworks of Misery. Like, there was a god window that actually meant for killers. Oh, you know what? You can do nothing against it. Just going around or playing Bamboozle, or allowing the entity to block the window after the third vault, and sometimes you even lost the chase because it was a really long wall, you couldn't mine him no matter what. So there were a lot of real infinites in the game. There were a lot more pallets, the maps were a lot safer for survivors, and all the kills were released in these years allowed to the killer to manage the loop in a lot easier way. I think of Nemesis, I think of Trickster, even if a long wall can be problematic for him. But if you are, if you have a bit of point of view, of field of view, sorry, you can create already some damages to the survivor. I think of even the artist, who I like, but has a huge potential at countering loops and tiles. Like, I think that they worked a lot at making the killer experience a lot, I wouldn't say better, but more affordable. At the same time, what happened to survivors? I think that the survivors just evolved and got the meta even more. Like, they know that they cannot go for 5 gens run unless the killer is misplaying or probably not playing something really, really strong. So they try to start to focus gens a bit more than before. While I remember that when I started playing, the gen speed wasn't so fast as now. It actually changed nothing, or to be honest, they even nerfed something related to the gen speed. Like, for example, you had a stronger prove thyself before, while the most recent prove thyself is it can sound like a paradox, but it's weaker because they kinda worked to decrease the bonus you got for working on a gen with someone else, and that bonus of prove thyself you had before actually added the 15% to every player, if I'm not wrong. Like, I don't remember the numbers, but I'm sure that prove thyself was stronger than the actual version. So it can sound like a paradox. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, the gen speed now is crazy. No, the gen speed has been even worse before, and what changed is that people got that working on gens is more important than ever, because you cannot allow yourself to waste any time. And I realized that when I tried to play on PS5, when I got my PS5 and I wanted to see how the game was there, and of course my MMR was not existent. I even tried before the MMR was a thing, so at rank 20, legit rank 20 of people who just bought the game. And you could see people committing gens, people working on gens, on different gens, and I don't remember that when I started playing Survivor in 2018, people so bold, so brave at working on gens, even with a killer who was pointing at them. I remember that survivors at rank 20 when I started playing legitimately in 2018 were actually scared of the killer. So what happened right now? Like, this is a complex topic, but I feel like we have a lot more of content creators who teach people how to play the game. And this actually had a push in the meta even for the newer players. If you go on a big content creator stream, you can see people with 200 hours or who are totally new at the game. They're listening, learning from the most experienced players. So when you have an experienced player telling you, no matter what, you have to work on a gen, these survivors focus their objective even more. If you have someone who teaches you, you don't have to be afraid of the killer because you can run the tile in this way and already doing this, make the killer waste time. And you already know what are the best perks and all this kind of stuff, because you even see legitimately new players with already the, maybe not the strongest build, but a build that is starting to become really close to the meta one. You realize how it's not about the game being worse, but about the gamers and the players being better than before. because we have a lot more knowledge, we have a lot more sources for informations. What does it mean? That the content creators who went for educational contents during this game? No, like they are just doing their job, and you cannot blame like a big content creators who would try to teach the game to someone else to do something bad, because if they didn't exist, we would probably have someone else doing it. So they are just doing their job. They are doing even a really good job, if you can think about how actually a lot of new players are ready with the right ideas about the perks and about how to play the game. But this is what mainly happened, in my opinion. We have better players, and imagine if we had these players during the previous years, in 2018 or even in 2016, with all the palettes that existed, with all the strongest style that actually existed, with all the perks that actually were stronger version of the perks we have now. So I don't think that the game is on worse status. And with killers that, sorry, I had to add this, with killers who had less possibilities to deal with this kind of game that we have. You didn't have the Blight in 2018. Blight is already one of the strongest killers in the game. If it probably is just top 2 just because the nerfs exist. You didn't have Nemesis, who is a really easy killer who counters loop to actually deal with every kind of tile. A killer who even has a passive pressure because of the zombies. You didn't have the Trickster, who is actually kinda easy to have hits in the open in 2018. You just had the Huntress as a ranged killer. You didn't have a Slinger, even if a Slinger is a kinda hard topic I wouldn't take, because, he was nerfed and is still required to be kinda accurate with aim and being super optimal at chases to get the full value of him. So, I don't think that the game, especially for killer, is in a worse status than before. I think that it's just the consequence of the player base evolving, of having years of contents that actually tell us how to play the game, and this actually made the players better at playing this game. So, yeah, and for example, when I say that the creators build the game around our feedback, why do we have a lot of anti-loop killers? Because actually there are killers who say that the loops are too strong and make killers waste too much time at putting pressure on survivors. Sorry. So, what happens is that they went like, okay, we have to do something to help killers and managing loops. This is something that can be considered annoying by the survivors, of course, because the chase is the most interactive part for a survivor. It's not obviously just working on gens. And if the chase is made a lot harder, or in some cases really, I wouldn't say challenging, because in some cases it's like you die or die situation. And I think about, for example, a Nemesis faking to shoot, or a Pyramid faking to shoot. Like, it can be really oppressive. Oppressive is the word I was looking at. Like, it's kind of normal that these players who at the beginning were more like, okay, we know we can alternate for the chases and having fun in this way, focusing more on the gens and trying to get value from the chase of the teammate, or you wish that your teammates would take value from the chase you are having at the moment. Because even a 30-40 second chase is a huge value against some kind of killers. Like, already 30 seconds, for example, against a Blight can be a lot, considering that is a killer with a really big map control, who usually is played with strong add-ons, who usually is played with strong slowdown builds, so even those 30 seconds are really important. So this is my personal opinion about that. Like, no, I repeat, the game is not in a worse status. I think that especially the killers had a lot of new tools to manage the stuff. The problem is that the players are better than before. Even the lower rank player plays a lot better than the lower rank player of 2-3 years ago. So it's kind of normal. The community evolves. We have more contents to learn from. We have a lot more stuff. We have a lot more voices. The game is bigger than before. It's not something that people are still learning to play. And I think that once you get the bases that are focusing objectives and looping as better as you can, or using your resources as better as you can, I think that Dead by Daylight it's not even so complex. Like, then you have the different level of players who will go for more unusual plays that can get you a bit confused, but like for example Survivor, who goes for really interesting plays, or really interesting mind games. But the bases are more understandable for the new players than before. At the end, I think that yeah, the community has a responsibility in a certain way, or on not only on the status of the game, whatever you look at it. Like, you can say that it's worse, or you can say that it's better. I think that it's as in every case, you have to analyze every single situation to get an opinion about that, because there are some things that are a lot better, as I said, and some things that could be better. Like, for example, Trickster is one of these, in my opinion. I think it's a really problematic killer who gives a lot for nothing, and it does a really little counterplay that is based only on breaking the line of sight. But if, for example, you can say, yeah, it's the same counterplay that you would have against, I don't know, a nurse or an huntress, these two killers, especially Huntress, should still get the shot, a single shot. And it's something that you have to be really good at, while Trickster, maybe it's a bit too helped by how his power actually works. That's another topic. Like, I think that it's mainly about the way the community is living the game than the game itself. And I put myself in this discussion as well. Like, I think that even myself, I had situation where I didn't manage these feelings in the better way. I see a lot of people actually having these moments where they alternate feelings and mood while playing this video game, and I think that the main thing that we can do actually is taking a moment to analyze all of this stuff, like I try to do here, and to try to, I don't know, if we realize that it's not that kind of day, maybe try to do something else. I keep saying that when Mathieu Cote affirmed that thing during one of their streams, like if you are burnt of the game, try to do something else, like playing a Civilization in that case. I think it was a real good suggestion actually. Like, if you're realizing that something you are doing, I don't know, doesn't give the same level of joy it usually gave you before, maybe taking a little break to take the distance and analyze the things from a different point of view can be the right way to look at it. Like, a lot of people looked at that like, oh, you know, you are pushing people out from your game, but I think that the point was a lot different. The point was more, you know, try to do something else while you relax a bit, you try to look at the things in a better way, and you can come back and enjoy your experience a lot better than before. And it's actually true, because it actually happened with me, and I can confirm that taking a little break is the best way to keep enjoying your favorite game. In this case, it can be Dead by Daylight, but it can work for every kind of game, in my opinion. I hope you enjoyed this new kind of videos. I'll be back with other quick talks. So if you have something to say about my opinion, if you have something to say in general, if you agree, if you disagree, please comment the video. I'll be back really soon on Twitch, and I'll be back with other, I'll call this DbD Quick Talk in the next future. I love you. See you next time. Bye bye.